let us know when the cameras go live. Give us a count us in.
3,
Shut up, Tony.
2. Joe, come on, live. 1.
All right, everybody. All right. Well, hold on one second. We're live on the radio. How's everybody doing out there?
All right, am I supposed to be funny or is?
Nah, man, just be you.
All right, we're live. All right, we're live on CPI Radio.
CPIRadio.org.
CPIRadio.org.
All right, we're going to turn our phones down.
Oh yeah, I gotta turn my phone down too. All right.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. Where am I at? What camera?
That one.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today is actually a big show. I know we've been gone for the last 2 weeks. We're going to address that now. We've been dealing with different situations growing this thing, man. And so we've been doing some really good things behind the scenes. And you're probably going to see it next week, the week after. You'll see a little bit of change in our show here, which is really good for us. It's really good for the people. We're going to be able to expand more on our topics. We're going to be able to expand more on social justice issues, which is one of the main things that Unite the People is about. So we've been working on that. So for the last 2 weeks, we've rebroadcasted some of our other shows, some of our past shows. And today, we're going to address the new bills that the governor signed in office.
Pay attention.
And there's quite a few of them. Excuse me. There's quite a few of them. There was like 5 or 6 signed in. 3 of them are non-retroactive, but there's a way to get them to become useful to guys that are incarcerated. So we're definitely going to address that. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the social justice world today. We're going to talk about SB 483.
SB 483.
Which is the 1-year prison prior enhancement under Penal Code 667.5. It makes that 1-year enhancement legally invalid, which is huge for a guy that's incarcerated.
Why is it huge?
Because if you've been incarcerated or a loved one of someone incarcerated, you know the 1-year priors were given to almost everybody. A 1-year prior, if you've been to prison before and you get incarcerated, everyone got the 1-year priors. Even on my first term, they gave me 3 1-year priors. I've never been to prison before. So that was just something that they gave out. But now it's come around to where it's going to help a lot of guys. And what that is, if you were given a 1-year prison prior, then now with it becoming legally invalid, what they're doing is you can now either wait for CDCR to, and that's the way it's written. It's not written to where it locks someone in or locks someone out, which is good. Because they could do like what's going on here in Los Angeles with the enhancement laws, where it's something where it's tier-based and you have to be recommended by them. How this one was written was that CDCR is supposed to, they have a 9-month window from today. The law actually becomes effective January 1st, and once January 1st hits, they have until March to get the first set of guys into send their names in. The way it's written is CDCR is supposed to look up all of the guys they have incarcerated with this charge, right? Everybody that has the 1-year prison prior, which is a lot of guys. Like, that's, we had a meeting with the attorneys about that, and that's just the norm. That's something that in California for the last 20, 30 years, 25 years maybe, that the 1-year prison prior was given to just about everybody. That was like the norm. Was
1-year prison, 1-year prison prior, 1-year prison prior.
Right.
For people that don't know, like, what is it? They just gave you an extra year.
Right. That's what it is. What they do is this. They say, okay, if you've been in trouble before, it's supposed to be prison prior. On my first term, when I went to prison, I was sentenced to 7 years. And then CDCR, once I was incarcerated, CDCR, their case analysis people. They sent me back letters saying, hey, the judge didn't give you a 1 year prior on your case. So they gave me 1 year. Then about a year later, they sent me another thing. Hey, we're going to add another year to your time because the judge forgot to give you this because of this.
It's a forgetful ass judge.
They cursing, but they basically gave me 3 of those, and you know, I accepted them for a while, but I ended up writing my writ of habeas corpus myself and filing it with the courts and getting the courts to amend my abstract of judgment and said, okay, well, because CDC wasn't budging. The courts told them, like, no, the judge gave him 7 years, leave it at 7 years. CDC said, no, that's against the law. We're adding these 3 years to them. They were 1 year prison priors, even though I'd never been in prison before. And it was because I had other charges in other counties. So they added those 3. Then once I wrote the writ of habeas corpus, sent it back to the judge, what they did was they changed my abstract of judgment, and they took 3 years off of the sentence he gave me, which made it 4 or whatever it was. And then they added what CDC gave me, which was those extra 3, which put my sentence right back where it was. But for someone that is still incarcerated, which is a lot of people, if you have a 1 year prison prior, you can now petition straight to the courts and say, hey, I have this 1 year prison prior, and under 667.5, it's legally invalid, so I want to get that 1 year off. Now, you probably think if a guy has 35 to life, 45 to life, whatever it may be, that 1 year doesn't matter. But this is actually the biggest thing that's happened for a dude that's incarcerated since Prop 57 or whatever you want to say, because if you file your petition, get your case back to court. Now, this is automatic. You file this is automatic. As long as you have that 1 year prison prior, you get your case back to court. Once you get your case back to court and they open your case, now your case is legally opened. And once your case is legally open, every single other bill that has passed in the last 6-7 years now applies to you. So if you have a gun enhancement and have 20 years for a gun enhancement, if they gave you a 1 year prison prior, you can file your petition, go back in under that, your case is open. 9 times out of the 10, the judge will more than likely, well, they have, let me say, what they will do, we don't know, right? But let's say this. They now have discretion. We can argue and say, well, his case is open, Your Honor. What about, and this is just, what I'm giving you, I don't want to say, you know, we're not lawyers. The lawyers work with us at the office. But this, what we got was from the lawyers. And what they say is now we can argue that, hey, look, you gave him 20 years on a gang and gun enhancement, and based on SB 620 that passed a couple years ago, you have discretion, Your Honor, to take that 20 years off his sentence. So there's going to be a lot of guys. There'll probably be some judges that say, no, I'm not doing nothing. But that's the new law. So if you're going to court and the new law applies to you, you have action at getting that enhancement time off. So
they should be happy.
Everyone should be happy. Everybody that's incarcerated that has a 1 year prison prior has action now at getting their whole sentence reduced. Like, that was the big thing, right? There were so many laws that passed and so many bills that passed that weren't retroactive. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these guys weren't able to get, that was like one of the main things that we do, as you know, at Unite the People. We try to get guys back into court. If we can get your case back open, then that is huge. Because if we can get you back in front of the DA, back in front of the judge, and they open your case, then now we're able to have our lawyers say, hey, well, look, you know, this law has changed. His sentence is this. Now we don't do, you know, you guys don't do it that way. So since you don't do it that way, can we change this guy's case? And they make a good argument for that. And that's how we've gotten a lot of the guys that we have gotten resentenced or have gotten released was a way that we went in. You know, like with the 1170, get a case in front of the judge, then you can argue this, and the judge has that discretion. Now with this, probably 80% of the prison population, at least the older guys, because that before they came with the gang and gun enhancement and all these other things, this 1 year prison prior, that was their extra money getter. They will give us all, hey, you got a 1 year prison prior. That was just the norm. You got your sentence plus 1 or 2 years or whatever it is, prison prior. So that's going to be huge for a lot of guys. That's going to open the door for guys to be able to get their cases back in front of that judge.
I mean, but not everybody, right?
No, not everybody, but everybody that has that 1 year prison prior, no matter what you're charged.
Right.
So that's where the judge's discretion comes into play, right? Because and again, everyone knows I've been incarcerated, but I still don't think everybody should come home, and that's just my opinion. You know, there's some people that are dangerous to the community and dangerous to women and children, and I myself don't believe in that, and that's just what it is, and that's the way it is. So, but with this here, it's still the judge's discretion. So if the judge sees that this guy has repeatedly done whatever type of harm to whatever type of people, then they
Right.
can say, well, nah, we're not going to give him any.
Nah,
Right. So,
go home.
right. So that's what's great about this. There's going to be a lot of guys that have this action. And in some cases, you may even have a judge that says, no, we're not going to accept his petition, or we're not going to allow that argument of he should qualify for these other bills. You may have that, right? You may have judges that, because it's left up to their discretion, but you'll have a lot of guys that will. So this is going to be huge. Even if the judges don't give these guys, let's say these people here want to petition back to the courts, and the courts say, nope, we want only CDC to send your name to us, right? Because that is something they could do.
Right.
If they say that, then we can still step in and have our attorneys represent these guys, and then still make that argument. Well, okay, Your Honor, CDC said this guy has, I mean, it's going to be a lot of guys. And they say, hey, you know, these guys, yeah, he has that 1 year prior, and we're here to take it off. But we also want to argue the case that, you know, these excessive sentences. And I'm going to say this for the people that are on the radio and in different countries and different states, that we're not here, Unite the People's not here, Mitch and I are not here to say that everyone should be released from prison, right? And because that's not how we feel. And I'm a formerly incarcerated person, and the reality is, man, some guys are dangerous. You know, I feel like they should have guys that are incarcerated on these prison boards, on the parole boards, in order to, or even if it's in silence or secrecy, however they have to set it up. The guys that are there with these guys, you know, that were there with me.
Well, I mean, it takes one to know one, right?
Well, I don't know about one and no one, because I'm not one, but I know a lot of
No,
guys
I'm
that
saying
are
it.
one.
I'm saying
that,
that if you put somebody that's been through it on the board, then you're going to get somebody that has experience
Right.
and knowledge of what actually goes
Right.
on in there, and be able to give it to whoever's in the lead.
Right. And that's how it is. Like, for instance, paroling from San Quentin, I can tell you a ton of guys that, what's funny?
Who got the cell phones? No, I'm
No,
joking.
not at all. I don't know anything. But there's guys that should not have been released that I know personally that have come home that I'm like, God, you know, there's certain because I know their cases.
And their mentalities.
Right. And I know guys that have had stalkings. I'm not saying anybody in particular, but I know guys that have had stalking cases on women repeatedly. The same woman repeatedly in bushes and cars at their jobs, and
in prison, staring at the female guards when they walk by.
well, and been released since I've been released.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and go like,
Well, how? I mean, let's play devil's advocate. How does CDC or the parole, or how can they fine comb through that?
by having someone who is incarcerated on that board,
Bingo.
right? Because you know these guys, and I'm not against them. Don't get it wrong. I'm against, I'm with letting everybody out. That's not going to hurt the women or children, and that's just what it is. You can
Right.
read between the lines, but that's just how I feel, right? And because I was there with them. And, I know the guys are like, oh, man, she did this, she did that. And if they let me go, I'm going back. I'm going, you know what I mean? Like, I've literally heard a guy say that, and the guy's out now. He got released after me.
Oh, shit.
So in the back of your mind, curse it.
Like, baby, run, baby, run.
Yeah, in the back of your mind, you think, oh, God, for that lady. I don't know the lady, but I know him.
Right.
And I know he's said repeatedly, like, man, I'll give a damn about none of this. I'm about to go find her.
Well, I mean,
Right.
okay, the guy you're talking about, or somebody like him, how much time would you say they did? 5, 10, 15, 20?
20 plus.
God, after 20 years, you're still tripping?
You have nothing else to
Wow.
think about in prison but
Wow.
your prior life. I can tell you everything about high school. I went to prison basically at the end of high school, did a term, came home for a few months, then went back to prison forever. So I still remember my Eisenhower high school days like they were yesterday. I can still tell you what people were wearing. Like I look at them on Facebook or Instagram, and they old like Tony Smith. They then got old now, but I still remember them in what we wore at sixth period PE. You know what I mean? So for these dudes, they're probably still remembering those times like that. Like that woman has probably moved on with her life and by no means expected him to. And I'm just speaking to one person.
Hopefully she got a husband that'll beat the brakes off of him.
I don't know, man. I don't want nobody beat up, but I'm just saying though, people's safety is important.
Right.
So we don't push, hey, everybody should be out of jail. What we push is right, wrong is wrong. These enhancements, these disproportionate sentences, these locking people up for money.
That's the worst.
Yeah, you know what I mean? For a profit, that's not cool. And I'm not even speaking of myself. I can talk about a Celia had, Mr., and I'll say his name because it's my buddy, Mr. Ronnie Shaw. They gave him, he was 60. This is back in 2000. And June of 2000, they gave him, June or July of 2000, he's 67 years old. They gave him 25 to life for stealing a Visine bottle.
At 67?
At 67 years old. So you basically just sentence this guy
That's
to
a lot.
death. Yeah, over a Visine bottle. So right is right, wrong is wrong, man. That guy shouldn't have gotten that sentence. There's multiple
but
people.
how long was the sentence?
25 to life.
But it was third strike?
Third strike.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you're going to
okay,
do 24, 25
today
years.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate.
Sure.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 67,
Uh-huh.
you know you have 2 strikes. But
See,
I'm
you
going
can-
to play America. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
play
you
white
can say
America.
that, but in the same note, there's different circumstances. For instance,
I get it.
Mr. Shaw was.
But let me finish though,
Sure,
and then
go
take
ahead.
it over.
No.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm that juror you hate. You know
Black people.
that no. Okay, well we can all say let us all go, but let's be 100. You're 67 years old. You have 2 strikes. You know you have 2 strikes, and then you go in there and you steal a bottle. If I had 1 strike, it's over. I'm done doing anything bad. I'm pushing the button across the street, and I'm doing everything correct. So
Right.
if you're 67 years old and you're of sound mind, and
That's the key. He wasn't
What?
of sound mind. He was addicted to a drug. So that addiction is what sent him there to get that Visine bottle. And so if you're addicted, and that's why every case is different. Like every
Yeah.
case should be, it shouldn't be where the judge doesn't have any discretion. And I'm gonna be honest, judges suck. There should be a whole new set of judges. Most judges are older white guys that don't relate to people of color, black, Hispanic, whatever it may be. They don't relate to us. So when
they see what's on TV.
you were in court with me. When I went to court, I didn't remind the judge of anybody that he can relate to. To him,
Right.
I was just
Kid off the streets.
right. That's the best way to say it. I was just a young black dude that didn't really matter, right? But and like I always tell everybody, my first fight in prison was because I was telling another brother from LA, hey, they're always, oh man, it's racist. The white people don't get what we get or whatever it may be. And I was like, wait, what? Man, you got what you got because you did what you did. Me, I'm right is right, wrong is wrong. Until I saw it for myself.
Right,
that,
right.
You know what I mean? That the people that and I'm, I'm unite all the people. But in the court system, if you're a person of color, you don't get the same.
Oh yeah, I seen it in Malibu court.
Right,
On
you
the
don't
ticket,
get you don't get the same treatment as everybody else. So I've seen guys with my exact same charges, but worse. Right, I had the nonviolent arguing with the ex-wife, whatever, and I've seen guys that have brutally beaten their wives to a pulp.
close to death.
Right, and got way less time. I'm talking about, I know a guy named Blue, came out of Pelican Bay. Well, I'm not gonna, but skinhead, whatever. But the guy used to show me his case. Like, man, you're not gonna get life. Look at my case. Like, his wife was totally, I mean, you wanted to do something to him. Once you looked at the pictures, like, there's no reason why
5 months.
you should nothing did. He had prison priors with assault on with a deadly weapon on cops. He had shootouts with police on the streets. I mean, dude was a really violent cat, right? And they brought him down from prison. He's already in prison on different charges. They brought him down for prison, and he got 4 years. I mean, his wife's mouth, I still remember the picture. She had pink hair, Caucasian lady. Her mouth was so swollen, it looked like it was over here. And I looked at the pictures like, God, I wanted to fight him. But, your doors are locked. You can't do no fighting. He just sent me his paperwork. And he's telling me, like, man, they're not going to give you life. Look at this paper. Look what I did. And his deal was 4 years. He took 4 years.
Damn.
And my case, I just did arguing, cursing, got mad, and said some things though. Whatever. I did say some things. By any means, don't anybody think that I didn't say some things, because I did. But I got 3 life sentences, and he got 4 years. So you see that.
I mean, it's yeah. Well,
You know what I mean?
definitely in court.
Yeah. So you see those things, and that's what happens. But now we have these new bills that are passing, and Unite the People, our thing is to get these guys back into court. So when when you have SB 483 that passes, to me, I'm happy. I wish I had a way to contact everybody in prison. Double wink. But I wish I had a way to contact them. We're going to be sending out newsletters to guys. Guys can call us collect, whatever it may be. But if you have a 1 year prison prior on your sentence, then, man, you should feel like Willy Wonka. You just got the golden ticket. And if you don't know how to do it, if you're a wife or a loved one of someone who doesn't know how to do it, give us a call. You can call us at 888-245-9393. You can go to our website, unitethepeople.org. There's a button there for consultation. Push the button, get your consultation.
Push it.
And our legal team will definitely take good care of you. Definitely. But this right here, to me, when they explained it to me, because at first I was like, man, nothing's going to be retroactive. It's never retroactive. Anybody out there that's watching this knows the same thing. Anybody that's listening to this, you're in the state of California, you know any laws that have passed within the last 6-7 years, they always make them non-retroactive because they don't want to offend CDC. CDC is the biggest union in the state of California, strongest union, and everybody's scared to death to offend that union. And so every law that passes, them and the sheriffs, every law that passes from a senator or assembly member, whatever it may be, it always leaves the guys that are incarcerated still incarcerated because that's CDC's money. That's their profit.
They work from here on out.
Right. And so they'll go, well, starting from now, but what about the guys that are in there? What about the guys that were disproportionately sentenced? What about the guys that didn't deserve those enhancements? We all know these enhancement laws. Like, if you look at the study that just came out, when the governor's office signed SB 775 and SB 483 and those other 3 ones, they actually put out the analytics on that. And we've been saying 88% of the guys incarcerated that have received these enhancements or these disproportionate sentences are people of color.
Right.
They did the actual analysis right now today. They did it for a week ago. And it's like 97, 98%. Come on. If that's not racist, I don't know what is. How do you get 97%, 98% of the people that were given an enhancement? Basically, you messed up. I'm going to give you a whooping and I'm going to put you on punishment. So if you are not a person of color, we're going to give you a whooping. You're going to get your 1, 2, 3 years, whatever the crime carries. If you're a person of color, you're going to get a whooping and timeout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, like that, and that came straight from the governor's office. That came straight from Mike Romano.
What was it? 90 what?
97 or 98%.
Damn.
And to be honest, I think I'm quoting it low, and I'm doing that on purpose. 'cause
How
I
much
don't remember.
lower can you quote it at 98%?
I know. I'm thinking it was 99. But they just, matter of fact,
Is
it's
that
right here.
what it-
It's
yeah.
right here. Hold on a second.
98%. Wait, maybe I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, no, it is. I forgot where I looked at.
Yeah.
When they
No, I
put
get
the
it.
when they passed the bills,
Yeah.
they put out the statement, and from the governor's office,
Yeah.
they ran the numbers from the prison system, and it was, I think 99%, but I just don't want to say that.
But I mean,
So I'm
that's
saying
sad.
98 or
I
7.
mean-
so that's blatant racism.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I
blatant
mean, but
racism.
what? And they look at it as, what are you gonna do?
Right.
What can you do?
You don't have no money.
Yeah, you ain't got no money.
You don't have no
you ain't-
numbers. You're not going to change our vote. Black people, we got to vote. Hispanic people, we got to vote.
Man.
But if you didn't vote on the governor's race.
And I mean that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, but I mean that goes a lot to that goes a lot to plea bargaining, if you ask
Right.
me. I don't understand that. I could be misconstrued on some things. Construed. When people say, when the judge says you have the right to waive your do you want to waive your right to a speedy trial? Why do we do that? Why does everybody waive that right?
But hold on. Everybody doesn't. If you remember, in my case, I can only quote my case because that's what I lived through, right? And in my case, I never once waived my right to a speedy trial for 3 years. And if you waive your right, if you waive your right to a speedy trial, excuse me, there was a little motor in the background. If you waive your right to a speedy trial, by law you have the right to have a speedy trial. Meaning, don't hold me in prison forever because I have a wife, job, kids, and everything else.
Correct.
Don't hold me in jail forever playing with this. If I did something, prove it. If I didn't, let me go. But they have cases like mine to where they said, hey, Mr. McDowell, I don't know if you remember this, but they had me in front of that judge, Becky Dugan in Riverside County. The judge said, you don't deserve no life sentence for this. This is crazy. And you've already done a violation. Remember, they took me into the violation first. Then they took me to court.
Yeah.
So they're like, you already did a year violation? I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, when I come back to court, Mr. McDowell, I'm going to give you a deal. The DA was, oh, no. She's like, no, you guys are tripping. Read this police report. Like, there's some weird stuff going on. We're going to give you a deal.
Yeah.
But when I came back to court, she wasn't there. It was a commissioner.
Yeah.
So then they took my case up to Hang'em Hanks. When they took my case up to him, he was like, oh, no, this is a very serious case. I don't know if you remember this, but he said, well, Mr. McDowell, if you waive your right for a speedy trial, I'll send you back to Dugan. Because I was like, I don't want my case heard in your court. I want to go back to the judge where I was at.
Right.
And he said, well, waive your right to a speedy trial, and I'll send you back there. Me, the lawyers, Tom, the lawyer that I had previously before I changed, said, no matter what you do, do not waive your right to a speedy trial.
Right.
So I said, no, Your Honor, I won't waive my right to a speedy trial. He said, okay, well, I find that the DA needs more time, so I'm going to waive your right to a speedy trial.
See, that's that.
But by law, they're not supposed to do that, but they did that. And you think, hey, you can come back on appeal on that.
Who you gonna tell?
Right. We filed on appeal on that, and that didn't go anywhere. But so the judges waived. I never waived my right for a speedy trial. So from the year 2000 to 2003, when I was incarcerated, I never waived my right. I mean, when I was in the county jail, I never waived my right. But they waived it for you. So you don't have that option.
See and that's crazy. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and she was saying that, should I waive? She's like, I gave them so much time to build up and try to catch them. I'm like, she's like, should I not have waived my right to a speedy trial? I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because if Uncle Kevin's saying I did something, and I say I didn't, why would I give him time to go sloop around and detect and figure everything
fabricate
out?
something.
Let's see
Right.
what you got right now. Let me see what I got right now. I mean, that's
and
what
let's
I
go to
would
war.
do. Yeah.
Right.
If I was innocent.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, even in my case, I was guilty of an argument. I did have an argument. I did say some things. But what I did was only misdemeanor level.
Right.
So in order for them to give me the amount of time, 3 life sentences that they gave me, they had to dress it up and make it more.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, the judge waiving that time gave the DA more time. I don't know if you remember, and whatever it may be, but remember when they lost that evidence? Remember
Which
when?
evidence?
Don't want to say, but you remember when you and Tom went down to the evidence room and they actually gave you guys the evidence?
Oh, I do remember something like that.
I remember you touched it all over everywhere.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But they're not supposed to do that. But they do that to guys all the time. So that speedy trial thing is really for naught. But this is what we're going to do. We just hit the 30 point.
Bingo.
And it's halfway through the show. Show goes fast when, hey, we're talking about things that make sense. We also have to talk about, I want to read this. This is about SB 483. I want to read it because this is what the lawyers gave me. And it's not a lot, but I just want to read it so that in case I miss something information-wise for the people, in case we miss something, this is what they gave me. I asked them to give me one paragraph in layman terms so I can explain it to the people. And this is what it says. The governor signed SB 483 into law. This makes the 1-year prison prior enhancement under Penal Code 6675.5 legally invalid. And this applies retroactively. This is retroactive. Retroactively to almost anyone. So when he says almost anyone, that means there's probably a clause for certain cases. I don't know. But he says, and this applies to retroactively to almost anyone who has already received this enhancement. If a person has one of these 2 enhancements, they are eligible to get resentenced under today's new law, which will not only remove the specific enhancement, but may drastically reduce their sentence since judges are more likely to dismiss the other enhancements, or reduce the amount of time received for an enhancement, right? The prior stuff. So we get you back into court, you argue, you get under this, which is automatic, then you argue about the other things, right? That these other laws that have passed because your case is open. So it says the amount of time received for an enhancement. CDCR will be reviewing inmates. This is the problem. Here's the problem. CDCR. And I'm going to say this, and this is not going to be popular, right? And hopefully not too many people incarcerated listening. CDCR is not all bad. There are certain people and there are certain staff. Look Mitch's face.
Nah,
but
I ain't never been there. I don't know.
No, but there are certain.
I know Uncle Kevin ain't nothing.
There are certain staff, certain people, certain brothers, certain COs, certain counselors that, and I could name some,
Okay,
right? You know what I mean? That aren't bad. You know what I mean? There's things that happen, and we do non-litigational services. If CDCR is doing something foul to you or your loved one, contact us. We can definitely help you out with that. But
what's the number where they would contact?
The number they would call?
Yeah.
The number they would call would be 888-245-9393.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can go to our website,
What's that?
unitedthepeople.org.
What's the website address?
unitedthepeople.org. And you can press the consultation button, man, and book a consultation. We talk to the people. They talk to you for free. And they tell you about the low-cost legal services that we provide. But for SB 483, man, call us. I mean, I'm going to talk to you like I would talk to the guys in prison, my guys, right? This is where I've been. Man, if you don't call us now, this is the golden ticket. Willy Wonka done gave everybody the golden ticket that has the 1-year prison prior. Like, everybody I knew in prison had a 1-year prison prior but I was sentenced 20 years ago.
So it's going to take off a year or more?
See, this is what it is. Ooh, good question. This automatically takes that year off. automatically. But that's not what we care about. If I got 3 life sentences like I had, that 1 year I don't even care about. But what I care about is the fact that this gets my case back in front of the court and opens my case. That's the whole thing about retroactive. You remember all the laws that passed where, they aren't retroactive. I remember I was in prison, I used to call you, it's not retroactive. I thought I was going home, but it's not retroactive. When it's not retroactive, it means it's not for the guy that's already in prison.
Yeah.
This is retroactive. So by this,
You got a year left.
No. If you got 30 years left, you call us. We file this. This gets your case in front of the judge. When it gets your case in front of the judge, now when you're not retroactive, they got 2 things. Your case is open or not open.
Right.
An open case, what an open case means is, let's say I just got sentenced 2 months ago, and I still haven't filed my appeal. Remember we filed the appeal with that lady, bomb, but we filed with a lawyer who was totally garbage, and until they tell you your case being open means until you have a chance to appeal it, and the higher courts told you it is what it is. When they tell you it is what it is, your case is closed. But while you're still arguing your case is considered open. So when things like this pass, those other bills in the past, like the SB 620, the gang and gun enhancement, you've heard about that for years now. We've been talking about that. Those would take 20, 30 years off of guys' sentences, but they only pertain to cases that were still active.
Open.
They weren't closed. They were still open in court, meaning you still were fighting your appeal. But if you weren't,
this will get you back to where your case will be open.
Right.
And now you hit them with the.
Now you hit them with the, hey, it's open.
Right. Oh,
By
fine.
law, you have action now to take that extra 20 years.
Now
off
you're
of
playing
the
their
sentence.
game.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, you playing their game.
Yeah.
You're playing their game. So that's what that is, and I'm going to figure a way to contact by newsletter, whatever it may be, but we're gonna get the word into those prisons, and I mean, this is the whole reason why we started it, right? Was to help these guys that were in a situation just like we were in. This was my brother on the outside, I was on the inside, and we tried everything trying to get out, and we started the organization to help guys now that I'm out. I mean, we started before I was out, but now that I'm out, we're able to put that concentration and help get other guys.
Knowledge.
Right, and so this is big, this is huge, and we hope everyone that has that definitely contacts us and looks for some help. But I'm going to finish the last 2 sentences of this, or 3 sentences of what the lawyer said. CDCR will be reviewing inmates over the next 9 months and sending the names of eligible inmates, which they should have said incarcerated people, but of name of eligible incarcerated people to the courthouses. However, you may be able to petition for resentencing. Contact us. Let's get those petitions into courts.
Let's get them in there, people.
However, you may be able to petition for resentencing under this provision at any time before CDCR sends your name to the court. You are also, again, before CDCR. Think about this. If I'm a grocer and I'm selling groceries and somebody tells me, hey, man, half your groceries got to leave. You can't sell them no more. We're going to leave. But we need you to go find the groceries and tell us which ones you're going to give us back for free. It's going to be a long, hard day in hell before I go find those groceries to kick out of here for free if I'm selling groceries. That's how I make my money. CDCR makes their money off of us being incarcerated. So how fast do you think CDCR is really going to move to make sure all these guys get their cases back in the court?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So that's where we come into play, where you contact Unite the People, and we file the petitions for you and get your people back in the court.
Definitely do
right?
it. Now, you said something on there, too. You said for 9 months. Then
Right.
does it stop?
Well, no, what they did was they gave them a timeline, right? Which anybody who's been incarcerated or a loved one of someone incarcerated, yourself, myself, CDCR is not giving a damn about their guidelines, and I know I shouldn't cuss, but they don't care
You said
about
something about me,
I-
Christian.
right. That's my bad. But they don't care about their guidelines. CDCR's biggest issue with this, in my opinion, not a lawyer, formerly incarcerated guy, but I've had experience with this, like Prop 57 or like 1170. Let's skip Prop 57. 1170. 1170, everybody, I had a sergeant and a lieutenant that was recommending me for resentencing. And when it got to the highest level said, there's no pathways. My exact answer was, there's no pathways right now because the court said that we have to do this, but we don't have no money to hire people to do this. So we're not going to have our counselors do it. We're not going to have our COs do it. And so when the courts figure out how to get us paid to do this, then we'll do it. I actually got released years later on something totally different from the parole board. So when you have things like this where a bill says, yes, you must do this, CDC is going to look at this bill and say, well, did you put money into us so that we can hire staff to go look through this? Because the staff that we have do A, B, and C already as their job description. Now you're trying to add this to their job description, and we're not going to pay them for it. Are you going to pay them?
Right, right.
You see what I'm saying?
But you said something in there, 9 months. I think hearing from what you read, if I was in need, I would try to be one of the first before something happens.
Right, and that's what we're saying. If I'm incarcerated right now, and this passes, I'm not waiting for CDCR to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do
Right.
it. I'm going to hire my lawyer. I'm going to call Unite the People, and I'm going to have them petition the courts for me. January 1st is the deadline. Is when it starts, not the deadline, when it starts. Right? CDCR was given 9 months, by March to do their first load, and then by June to finish it. But
Right.
if I can have a lawyer at a low-cost legal firm if a high cost, I would go that route. But low cost, I save my family money. We can still feed the kids, and that's the big thing with single moms. I mean, how am I going to feed the kids, pay these phone bills, send these packages? It's Christmas coming up. It's Thanksgiving. It's a hard, time to roll. But if I can find a low-cost law firm that will file this petition for me, get it prepared now, get everything done, get all of the intake packets, get everything done now, come January 1st, have my paperwork at that court so that I can be one of the first in line. You got to think about this is going to be a major portion of the population in prison. Do you know how many years, how long this is going to be pushed back before this is really implemented and concluded? That's going to be a long time. So, again, man, I would strongly suggest that people contact Unite the People and get that done.
Man.
But before,
Hey, look,
go ahead.
it looks like we got a Facebook question.
Sure.
His first day.
Allen said, "Is this good for three-strike offenders, nonviolent?"
Repeat the question. The question was Nicole Allen
She wrote,
said, go ahead.
"Is this good for three-strike offenders, nonviolent?"
Is this good for three-strike offenders, nonviolent?
This is good for everybody.
Nicole.
Nicole Allen, speaking to you. If I had, in my case, they gave me 3 life sentences, nonviolent, Prop 57. We're in the same boat. But they didn't give me that 1 year prison prior in this because they gave me so much time they didn't even care to give it to me. If your loved one has a 1 year, and you have to go look at this abstract of judgment, because when we get sentenced to forever, we don't care about that 1 year. We're not, like, literally my legal sentence. They didn't add up my time right. I didn't add it up because you just gave me 3 forevers. So I didn't add that up.
She also said, "My husband has possession of firearm."
Right. So if
Wait, she said her husband has possession of firearm.
Yeah, she said her husband has possession of firearm. If your husband has possession of firearm, right, they gave him that. They gave him the 3 strikes. You want to check his abstract of judgment to see if they gave him 1 year prison prior, even if he hadn't been in prison before, like me. that if they gave him that 1 year prison prior, then he can file on that, get that back into court, and then the attorneys can now ask, well, hold on, Your Honor, you gave him 3 strikes. That's an alternative sentence. You now have discretion to change that. You gave the gun enhancement, like you just mentioned. You now have discretion to take that away, which will shorten guys' sentences like immensely. But it's just based on what they gave him. So you what you would want to do is, and there's twofold. There's 2 things that unite the people. We do case reviews as well. If a guy doesn't have that 1 year prison prior, that doesn't mean like, oh, my boat sunk. Your boat's not sunk. And I'm going to say this. This is a guy that I was messaging back and forth with today. Blue Strip Bandit on our Instagram. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to know how much is the case review. He wanted to know what these new bills meant. And I told him, like, hey, man, give us your contact info, book a consultation, and, you know, I don't think he's incarcerated. He's probably free. Whatever it is, I don't know. We don't check that. We just answer questions. So when you get those, when you get these bills that pass, and let's say your loved one doesn't fall into this, that's okay. Contact Unite the People. Have them do your case review. I mean, like, literally, that's what our lawyers do all day, every day. We have a staff of lawyers that sit in that room and just review people's cases and find any little thing to get you back in court that does the same thing as this. The main thing is to get them back to court. You get them back to court, you get that case open, now you have action at a lot of different things. So in his case, Miss Nicole Allen, what you'd want to check is that gang enhancement, that gun enhancement. You want to have him review his case. It will apply to a 3 striker. It doesn't matter if he's a 3 striker or a million striker. As long as he has that, he has it. But don't get me wrong. The lawyer did say in certain cases. And so I don't want to say which cases it does, it doesn't. But it's 6:47 now. We're 13 minutes till the end of the show. And we haven't went over SB 775.
SB 775.
Now, you've done a lot on this. This was before I came home. This is when Mitch was working like, I want to say Slave in Georgia. I don't know if it's politically correct. But this was when Mitch was doing a lot of this work by himself. But what happened was SB 1437, the felony murder bill, passed. And it was written saying if you have, and everybody knows what this is, but if you have been sentenced, let's say myself and Mitch, let's just say this, we go to do a crime, right? Yeah, we don't, right, but not at all. Either one of us. Now,
I would stop you.
Yeah, I would stop. We'll both be stopping each other because I'm never doing it. But let's say that some individual went and 2 guys went to go do a crime. They said, we're going to rob the dope man. They go to rob the dope man. I'm driving the car. Mitch goes in to rob the dope man. Something happens. The dope man gets murdered. Mitch gets the felony murder. And so do I, because I was the driver and there was no law for that. But the SB 1430, stop crying. You're not
I
really
don't want to go to prison.
yeah. But the SB 1437 changed that and said, well, as long as I didn't know it was a robbery, didn't have indifference to human life, reckless, right? We all know what that is, the different qualifications. So if you didn't have that, 1437 changed that to where you can be resentenced for the crime you committed. You went to go commit a robbery, they're going to give you the robbery. The first case they ever did on that was the 1437 out of Fresno, gave the guy 9 years, right? He had did 9 years, so they sentenced him to 9 years for the robbery, and they released this guy. But it was actually a weed robbery. They went to rob the weed man that killed the man and the woman selling the marijuana. So now what has happened was in that time, you have guys that, let's say both of us went, and they said, well, Caesar, man, we're going to give you the life without, whatever it may be. We're going to give that to you on this felony murder unless you take a deal right now. You can take a lesser plea.
Take a deal right now.
See,
don't go to trial.
Right, and you can take attempted murder. you can take whatever it may be, and we won't, but you won't face this exposure. So in the first 1437, when it passed, I actually read that in there that said these guys should be included, but they weren't included. Now, SB 775 passed, and what's that saying is if, and that was unfair, the way that it was actually implemented, if I didn't do it, I didn't know he was going to shoot him, but he did, and I can't control him, but I pled to attempted murder so that I didn't have to get that, that main sentence.
And that's the jankiest court stuff to me.
That major sentence. Wow. If I pled and took attempted murder, now they changed this law and said, man, if you didn't know what was going to happen, we're not going to give you that. But for the guys that pled and took a deal for attempted murder just so I didn't get all that time, if I faced that exposure, now SB 775 is saying you now can be resentenced too. Because it was like a loophole. If that happened and I knew nothing about it, and that's what you went up in there and did, and then you come back and I'm like, you know what I mean? So then,
which happens a lot.
A whole
people
lot.
Probably. I mean, there's a lot of people who probably think, oh, that doesn't happen.
Man, I can recount some stories. I won't, but I can recount some stories where absolutely that probably played a key, not murders, but things that were
period. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Crazy Larry, where are you going?
Okay, so you remember that story. You know what I mean? Where I thought we were going on some dates, and
That's a big case that's happening right now.
what is that?
A lady was on Zoom. Did you see that? She was on the Zoom call.
He said a lady's on Zoom
She
call.
was on Zoom call, and her baby grabbed a gun. Her kid grabbed a gun and killed her. And the husband was at work. And when he walked in, he seen what happened. Now they're charging him with murder.
Well,
Right.
That's a little different.
And so he says, what the guy, his title is Guy in the Back.
Guy in the
Joe
yellow
Vegas. Yeah, and the pretty yellow shirt. So this is what the guy said. The guy said that there's something like that going on in the media right now where there was a woman on a Zoom call, baby grabbed a gun, baby shot the woman on the Zoom call, she died. Husband wasn't home, wasn't at work, but then now they gave him the charge. And I know of cases.
Thank God for Zoom.
Right, no. But I know cases where guys like same situations went out and did, and I just know this from prison, but guys that went out and did a robbery and robbed somebody, and the police pulled up to stop the robbery. The police shot one of the guys that were doing the robbery, shot him I'm not going to go on it, but they shot him. And the guy died that the police shot. So everybody that went and did that robbery, everybody went and got murdered for that.
Yeah.
But the police murdered somebody, but these guys got the murder. So
There's
those
a lot
things,
of stories like that.
yeah. So now they passed 1437, but it left a ton of dudes incarcerated that took a deal because they didn't want to face that exposure. And once that 1437 passed, it left those guys behind. Like, well, she took a deal. But
Just on that deal, I'm gonna jump in real quick on that deal thing. Just something out of my mind. What if nobody took a deal? Everybody said, "Let's go to trial." That will flood the courts.
that would shut everything
That will
down.
everybody. They wouldn't even know what to do. That's why they're offering the deal.
They would have to come back then and offer better deals.
Yeah.
The problem is, who wants to say,
Yeah.
all right,
To be the first.
yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a deal. But in reality, the way the court system is set up, it's about money. It's about sentences. It's about California and CDCR. It's about all of that.
And getting them cats into prison quickly.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's all a rotation, right? Let's hurry up, get these guys. Hey, man, I've seen them offer guys 30 years. Like, man, you're going to get, 30 years of life. But if you take this 20 years right now, we'll give you no life. I've seen guys take it.
Yeah.
On cases that were
I mean, and it's messed up
dope
because
cases.
who wouldn't take 10 years or 40? Like, all right,
Right.
dang, but
But
man,
in reality, the crime that you committed shouldn't even carry 10. But that's their way. For instance, Riverside County, worst county in the world. To me, that's where I was. But I've seen that multiple times where guys have done something that carries maybe 2-3 years. Yeah, you're supposed to go to jail. But what they do is they bump your deal up. That's where these enhancements and all this comes in, because
Right.
it gives them leverage now.
Right.
And say, oh, well, look, we can give you 60 years in enhancements just for that little 1, 2, 3 year crime you committed. But what we're going to do is go on and take this 20, man. Take this
Yeah,
20.
yeah.
At least you'll be alive when your daughter's 30, and you go out and guys have to literally take that deal. So with this SB 775 that passed into law, let me read to you what the lawyers wrote for us. And it's the governor signed SB 775 into law. This affects what has been referred to as SB 1437. Under SB 1437, if you were convicted of murder or felony murder under the natural and probable consequences instruction and could not have been found guilty without that instruction, your sentence could have been vacated. Excuse me. With SB 775, this applies to those convicted of attempted murder and manslaughter, which is great because that's what the deal they give you is attempted murder and manslaughter. It also opens up the theories under which you were convicted before you had to have received the natural and probable consequences jury instruction. That's a jury instruction. It's like a tongue twister. But natural and probable consequences jury instruction. Now, what just happened was the legislator seems to have opened it up by including the language that states or the theory which malice is imputed to a person based solely on that person's participation in a crime. Basically saying this: if you didn't know that it was going to happen to the individual and it happened, then if you took a deal to try not to face that exposure, now you can petition the courts and go back and get resentenced too, which is huge. So those are two big bills. That's something that's huge. That's something United People is going to be sending newsletters out into the prisons about. It's something that,
How would they prove that they took the deal that way?
because it's all on record.
It's in the transcripts.
Right. So if you and I went to court and I took that deal, it's in the records that it
I just
was a
wanna say
felony
it
murder.
so people
Right.
can-
It's in the records that we were facing that felony murder, and I took that deal not to face that exposure. So,
So they'll probably have to have a case review, pull the parts, send it in.
right. Well, if they're trying to petition back on this, then they already know. You know what I mean? You know, if this is how I was sentenced, you know how you were sentenced. And if you weren't, we'll see it and we'll tell you no, you weren't. We'll review it. We'll say no, you weren't. If you were, we'll see it and go, man, absolutely. We won't file anything that Unite the People doesn't believe will win. We just won't do it. It is not worth it to you. It's not worth it to us. We don't want to spend the time for the low-cost legal fees that we charge to even deal with the extra headache of filing something frivolous. If we think it's going to win, we'll rock
And we
with you.
wouldn't take your money on that.
Right. And if we don't think it will win, that little couple $1,000s or whatever, few $1,000s, which is big to me or big to a lot of other people, but it is not enough to want to deal with the headaches of filing some BS. So you have your loved one call us, 888-245-9393. Hit us up on our website, on our social media. We respond to a lot of that as Blue Strip Bandit. If I said it wrong, brother, it's my mistake. But people contact us. I don't want to know.
He should have picked a different name.
No, that's a good name, man. Great name. But but nah. So contact us, and if it's something that we can help you with, we absolutely will. If it's something that we won't, we'll tell you because we won't waste our time with it. And with that being said, I think
we're outta here, huh?
we're about 1 to 2 minutes out of here. Want to thank everybody.
Everyone.
Mr. Tony Smith,
Yeah.
Big Joe Vegas.
Joe Vegas. Joe Vegas, where you from? Where were you raised?
Cleveland and Atlanta.
Cleveland and Atlanta.
Big Joe Vegas,
Weirdo.
Cleveland and Atlanta.
No, I was-
Big Joe Vegas, and Uncle Funky,
I wish we could turn a camera on.
Kevin Big Dad. Man, if I could show you guys what I'm seeing right now, all right. But no, man. Thanks to everyone for coming out. Thanks to everybody for asking their questions.
Yeah.
Next week we're going to go over some more of the bills. We'll touch on some of these different issues going on. And, you know,
Keep them updated on the bills we discussed today.
right, and we're going to update you again on this and let you know what's going on with that. And give us a call, 888-245-9393. Appreciate everybody for joining us, and Mitch with the nice black tuxedo shirt.
Tuxedo, man, this ain't. Is it?
I don't know. Is it?
Probably is a tuxedo shirt. No, I'm joking.
Give us a call, man. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.